music video that included an announcement from last spring. The viewers heard that Chris Stockwell's grandson had died. I presided at his memorial service in Cleveland, and I want to assure you that the tragedy of young adult Zach Wilson dying in poor health is enough grief for Chris and for Zach's parents, Laura and Rich Wilson. Chris did not lose another grandchild. Again, that announcement was a production error from our technical side. We apologize for its happening, and we appreciate that Chris understands this, and she wanted all to know that she didn't suffer another family tragedy. And now Luann can give our opening words.
These opening words are from You Are the Holiday Miracle by Gwen Matthews. As December opens up before us, we welcome in the gift of reflection. We turn toward our holiday celebrations and search for common threads of meaning. We begin with Yule, the winter solstice, and we are invited to explore duality, cycles, and seasons, and to witness the Holy King being overcome by the Oak King. Yule reminds us that we all partake in the miracles of renewal. Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, commemorates a time of miracles when the faith of the Jewish people sustained them to reclaim their holy temple and keep the light of the menorah burning, that kept the light for the menorah burning for 8 days. Christmas is the celebration of Jesus' humble birth in a manger. It offers us to revisit the miracle of birth and the desire to find saviors to heal the scars of humanity. Here in our church, you are just as much a holiday miracle as the turning of the earth, as the persistence and dedication to a faith, as the creation of each new life. We see the love that you give to others, the space that you create to hold one another's joys and sorrows, and the generosity and spirit that you entrust to this community. You are the holiday miracle. This community is one of miracle makers.
And our chalice lightings this holiday season are all written by David Breeden, who is the senior minister of First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis and was a classmate of mine in seminary. Adventus means waiting. And the holiday season is nothing if not waiting. To get done the chores, to find the right gift, to find time for quiet moments, to accept that our loved ones will not be as we wish them to be. We will light the chalice this holiday season, this time of waiting, to remind ourselves to enjoy the moment, the now of our lives. Yes, much is coming, and always we wait. But those things to come will also be now, when they come. This first chalice lighting of Advent reminds us to be patient. In this holiday season, may we find the patience to forgive ourselves, to forgive those who do not do as we wish. May we find patience. May we find the wisdom to let be. We light this flame as an end, as a beginning, as the symbol of the eternal now. And, oh, the wick is just a little bit red, and I'm not seeing flame right now. This has been our Hanukkah miracle chalice. We filled it halfway with oil when we got this spherical chalice early in the summer. It might have been just as summer was turning. We have not refilled it with oil yet. So
I can see the very teeniest little flame.
you can see a flame. Good.
Yes, because I see the piano behind it, so I can see a little
Okay.
glow.
I just see a red ember right now. But our chalice is lit. I think we will fill it with oil next week.
Sounds
just
good.
in case. Please join me in reciting the covenant of this congregation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And our opening hymn today is number 221, a Hanukkah hymn, Light a Candle.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and tears. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and fears. One candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering pain that we learned long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in. Let anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together with the peace and the song in our hearts. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and tears. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and tears. And what is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep alive in the flame? What's the commitment for those who have died? We cry, I have not died in vain. We have come this far, always believing that judgment will somehow prevail. This is the burden, this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and tears. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and tears.
Our story this morning is titled, Dear Whoever You Are, Here's the First Christmas Card by Neely Tucker. Do I start? I forget.
Yes.
Dear you, hustling after Christmas presents, sending season's greetings to all the lovely people on your list, well, honestly, it can wear a body down.
So let's take a moment to send a little holiday cheer out in the memory of ye merry old Henry Cole, the British civil servant and patron of the arts who, in 1843, created the commercial Christmas card. It was, by coincidence, the same year that Charles Dickens published A Christmas Carol. The two creations and the iconography they inspired went a long way to establishing the Victorian concept of Christmas, which in turn we now regard as the traditional Christmas.
Cole, born in 1808, was the son of a military man. After his formal education, he took clerk and government jobs while befriending artistic, high-minded sorts, including the philosopher John Stuart Mill. By the time Cole was in his 30s, he was spending a large part of each December dashing off one Christmas letter after another. This got to be a considerable drag on his energies, if not his holiday cheer. A man of action, he commissioned friend and illustrator John Calcott Horsley to design a card that would express his cheerful sentiments to all and sundry.
Take a look here. Horsley came up with an image of 3 generations of a family celebrating with food and drink, along with panels illustrating Christian charity on each side. The message, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. The card also included blank lines where Cole could fill in the name of the recipient and his as the sender. You see the blank at the top and the blank at the bottom. One might notice that the mom appears to be giving her child a rather large glass of wine. There's also a bottoms-up child in the background, if you can observe the bottom of her wine glass. But let's not tut-tut about that now.
Horsley used chromolithography, a lengthy process that involved multiple layers of color and shading. Once the design was finished, thousands of copies could be made. All Cole had to do was address, sign, and mail each one. Joy. The British postal system, dubbed the penny post, which he had helped found, was expanding and affordable, so expense was not an issue.
The charming illustration and affordable postage made Cole and Horsley's creation an enticing alternative to writing holiday letters individually. Cole's acquaintances realized how efficient the card was, and they followed suit.
And thus, the Christmas card was born.
Cole, a busy and inventive sort, was no one-hit wonder. He wrote children's books. He had 8 kids. He gave them wine, I guess. He did much to develop the British railroads, helped promote better engineering and architectural design in a number of disciplines, became a trusted friend of Queen Victoria, and served as the founding director of what became the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is still a world-class institution in London.
So there you have it, a happy little holiday tale just in time for Christmas.
A Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you from us.
Please join me for a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. We all have our individual joys and sorrows, celebrations and worries, and we have group and community concerns as well. Let's ponder those while I lead Samuel A. Trumbore's Chalice Flame Contemplation. In this time of long nights and short days, let us seek the light within by contemplating through our mind's eye the image of a candle flame. Notice how the soft, quiet, and gentle flame tamely rises from the wick. Yet, just by touching a dry twig, it has the power to become a raging bonfire to light up the night. Let that little candle flame be your friend this morning. Allow it to quiet your mind as you attentively watch its flickering glow. Allow it to calm your mind in a way that brings a stillness that can light up the interior of your being, that can help you find the wellspring of your feelings. Allow it to show us our inner sense of knowing that can help us notice the ways we've strayed or harmed others. To warm us, reflecting on the ways we've been touched and the ways we've opened our hearts. And inspire us through making new connections and discovering new insights. May this simple flame touch the dry twigs that guard our hearts, allowing the power of light to penetrate our self-protection and show us the amazing potential for heat and light that resides within us. Let's observe 1 minute of silence. The stirrings of compassion blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
This little reading today is by Dave Barry. In the old days, it was not called the holiday season. The Christians called it Christmas, and they went to church. The Jews called it Hanukkah. They went to synagogue. The atheists went to parties, and they drank. People passing each other on the street would say, "Merry Christmas," or "Happy Hanukkah," Or the atheists, look out for the wall.
I'm sure you've all been keeping up with your calendars, and you know that last Thursday was Thanksgiving. Friday was Black Friday for our retailers and shoppers. Yesterday was a day to breathe, and today marks the beginning of both Hanukkah for Jewish people and Advent for Christians. Then will come Cyber Monday for online buying, and Giving Tuesday was begun as a way to recognize that this is also a good time for charitable donations, and First Unitarian would be a grateful recipient. The holiday season is upon us, and it won't let up until January 6th, by my reckoning, when the Christians enter Epiphany with Three Kings Day. But there's Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 15th. And we go into February with Valentine's Day for love and President's Day for sales. And the Christian season of Lent begins on March 2nd in 2022, the day after we party on Mardi Gras. It all just keeps on going. Being Unitarian Universalist in the holiday season can be challenging. Individual Unitarian Universalists have many beliefs, and a lot of us Unitarian Universalists have set aside earlier ones. Some choose to observe Christmas even though they don't consider themselves to be Christian. And there are devout Christians among us, let's not forget. And Unitarianism and Universalism were solely Christian denominations at one time. Unitarian Universalists can be pretty fluid between the sacred and the secular. But are Unitarian Universalists better at navigating between the sacred and the secular when it comes to holidays? We might be more comfortable saying season's greetings instead of Merry Christmas, not because we'll declare a war on Christmas like some conservatives want to have so they can fight on the side of Jesus, but we respect world religions and have taken the Facebook meme to heart that says, "Why do I wish people happy holidays?" Because from 1 November to 15 January, there are approximately 29 holidays observed by 7 of the world's major religions. And I don't think mine are the only ones that count. The symbols for the 7 religions are from Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, and Wicca. With all of this, no matter our orientation within Unitarian Universalism, there's a challenge to holidays for us. In many ways, we don't quite fit. What is a Unitarian Universalist to do in the holiday season? Sometimes wouldn't it be nice just not to be part of the holidays? And now with the pandemic, there's more reason to just put things on hold, isn't there? This reading Luann is about to give, and a few that follow, are from a novel called Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. Yes, that John Grisham, the author of legal thrillers, though this is about an accountant and isn't a puzzle of who did what and who might face life or death situations. No, this is a story of a man who decides to skip Christmas. I've known Unitarian Universalists who want to ignore the holiday, such a major one in the Western world, and especially in the United States, as a sacred Jesus and secular Santa Claus observance. It's not always easy to carry a religion in your soul, Unitarian Universalism, regardless of whether you lean to humanism, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, earth-centered spirituality, atheism, or another orientation. To carry this religion that sprang from one that most around us observe, Christianity, and seeing the Christmas holiday as one in which the sacred story of a God come to earth and the secular one of a jolly man bringing presents to children around the world coexist with very little tie between the two. but great acceptance of both stories with an understanding that one is for kids and belief in the other is a prerequisite for practicing the religion. Skipping Christmas doesn't go into such depth, though. It's the story of an accountant, Luther Crank, K-R-A-N-K, not a Unitarian Universalist, whose daughter Blair joins the Peace Corps in Peru in November, and he convinces his wife, Nora, to take a cruise instead of becoming immersed in the traditions of their neighborhood and town. There was a movie made of this a few years ago called Christmas with the Cranks. This first extended excerpt from the book is Luther revealing the plan to Nora.
The ambush was carefully planned. First, he worked late, which was certainly not unusual, but at any rate, helped set the stage for the evening. He got lucky with the weather because it was still dreary. Hard to get in the spirit of the Christmas season when the skies were damp and gray, and much easier to dream about 10 luxurious days in the sun. If Nora wasn't worrying about Blair, then he'd certainly get her started. He'd simply mention some dreadful piece of news about a virus in Peru or perhaps a Colombian village massacre, and that would set her off. Keep her mind off the joys of Christmas. It won't be the same without Blair, will it? Why don't we take a break this year? Go hide, go escape, indulge ourselves. Sure enough, Nora was off in the jungle. She hugged him and smiled and tried to hide the fact that she'd been crying. Her day had gone reasonably well. She'd survived the ladies' luncheon and spent 2 hours at the children's clinic, part of her grinding volunteer schedule. They chatted about Blair, and not long into the dinner, Nora kicked the door open. "It will be so different this Christmas, won't it, Luther?" "Yes, it will," he said sadly, swallowing hard. "Nothing will be the same. For the first time in 23 years, she won't be here. It might even be depressing. Lots of depression at Christmas, you know." Luther swallowed quickly and his fork grew still. "I'd just love to forget about it," she said, her words ebbing at the end. Luther flinched and cocked his good ear in her direction. "What is it?" she said. "Well," he said dramatically, shoving his plate forward, "now that you mention it, there is something I want to discuss with you. Finish your pasta." "I'm finished," he announced, jumping to his feet. His briefcase was just a few steps away. "Luther, what are you doing?" "Hang on." He stood across the table from her, papers in both hands. "Here's my idea," he said proudly, "and it's brilliant." "Why am I nervous?" He unfolded a spreadsheet and began pointing. "Here, my dear, is what we did last Christmas. $6,100 we spent on Christmas. $6,100. I heard you the first time. And precious little to show for it. The vast majority of it down the drain, wasted. And that, of course, doesn't include my time, your time, the traffic, stress, worrying, bickering, ill will, sleep loss, all the wonderful things that we pour into the holiday season. Where is this going?" "Thanks for asking." Luther dropped the spreadsheets and, as quick as a magician, presented the Island Princess to his wife. Brochures covered the table. "Where's this going, my dear?" "It's going to the Caribbean. 10 days of total luxury on the Island Princess, the fanciest cruise ship in the world. The Bahamas, Jamaica, Grand Cayman. We'll snorkel on Grand Cayman, windsurf in Jamaica, lie on the beaches. 10 days, Nora, 10 fabulous days. What's the catch?" "The catch is simple. We don't do Christmas. We save the money. We spend it on ourselves for once. Not a dime on the food that we won't eat or clothes that we won't wear or gifts that no one needs. Not one red cent. It's a boycott, Nora, a complete boycott of Christmas." Sounds awful. "No, it's wonderful, and it's just for this year. Let's take a break. Blair's not here. She'll be back next year, and we can jump back into the Christmas chaos, if that's what you want. Come on, Nora, please. We skip Christmas, save the money, and go splash in the Caribbean for 10 days. How much will it cost?" $3,000. so we save money. Absolutely. When do we leave? High noon, Christmas Day. They started staring at each other for a long time.
How many of us have wanted to do the same thing? Just set Christmas aside. Not only would it be easier on the pocketbook, for many of us Unitarian Universalists, it would mean we wouldn't have to negotiate our way through the holiday. And negotiation is what many of us do. There are Unitarian Universalist converts who live their faith 11 months of the year, but turn to the religion of their raising for December, becoming immersed in a religious Christmas, complete with attending a high church service of lessons and carols. There are Unitarian Universalists who have so much fun in the Christmas season that they can overdo the secular observance, overspending on presents, making elaborate yard displays, and never going anywhere without the Santa hat firmly on their head. And there are the Grinches, for whom it's a stretch to even say Xmas, and who criticize the mining of that lump of coal that's a threat to children who are naughty. They're all Unitarian Universalists, sharing our open liberal religion. Most of us follow more of a middle path, negotiating maybe how many presents we can responsibly purchase for others, or fashioning a Christmas day full of awe, but just for the children. Or we negotiate a season of inclusion, making sure we acknowledge the adherents and holidays of Islam, Judaism, Wicca, and many others, but sometimes even giving short shrift at Christmas time to Christians. Holidays are difficult for Unitarian Universalists. We honor the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, but we forget that a lot of people have found truth and meaning in these holiday stories that a lot of us question or even reject. I don't have a rule for observing days that are holy to many, but maybe not to us. I'll point you to our principle that calls for acceptance of one another, but you've got to figure out what works for you and your family and your friends and your community. Instead, I want to call attention to what I think it is that binds us all in the holidays: story. There's the sacred Christmas story that comes from the Bible, the secular "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" of Clement Moore, stories and carols surrounding these central ones like Away in a Manger and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And more important, there are the stories of Christmas and other holidays that we make and pass down through our families. Stories of baby's first Christmas, or the year that the Christmas tree caught on fire and burned the house down. All the stories aren't happy ones, but they become lore. Part of my story is that there have been years when I've wanted to skip the whole season, a temptation when I see the first Christmas-themed ad before Halloween, when my cynicism kicks in and I can't see beyond the commercial aspects of gift selling and never get to gift giving. There were the years in examining my theology when I wouldn't give credence to others' theology, no matter how studied theirs was or how put on it seemed. But I've opened to respecting the stories and positions of others, even though my own beliefs and thoughts differ. My humanism and my Unitarian Universalism have led me to appreciate that there are many ways to be people, and one of those ways is to celebrate, to revel in story, to reveal the parts of our being that are common to all. It is human nature to repeat the stories that give us comfort, including stories of creation and salvation and reward for being nice. It's part of our social aspect to reenact stories, whether with grade school pageants or a once-in-a-lifetime journey to Mecca. It's part of our curiosity to see how the world changes and to mark major events like a solstice. It's part of our wonder to repeat accounts of what can't be explained, like a day's worth of oil keeping hope alive for a week more. It's hopeful to tell a story about a person who is said to give all people a fresh start. And yes, it's human nature to give massive attention to newer events and form our own holidays, whether they're shopping sprees or sports contests or reclaiming culture or even trying to form a new holiday out of whole cloth just to have a holiday we can call our own. Come back next Sunday for my talk on our invented holidays. Let's go back to John Grisham's story, Skipping Christmas. Since we're talking about story, I want to give you more of this.
Though it was Luther's scheme, Nora was the first to be tested. The phone call came on Tuesday morning from a pricklish man she didn't much care for. His name was Obby. He owned the Pumpkin Seed, a pompous little stationery store with a silly name and absurd prices. Obby came right to the point. "Just a bit worried about your Christmas cards, Mrs. Crank," he said, trying to sound deeply concerned. "Why are you worried?" Nora asked. She didn't like being hounded by a crabby shopkeeper who would barely speak to her the rest of the year. "Oh, well, you always select the most beautiful cards, Mrs. Crank, and we need to order them now." He was bad at flattery. Every customer got the exact same line. According to Luther's audit, the Pumpkin Seed had collected $318 from the Cranks last Christmas for cards, and at the moment, it did seem somewhat extravagant. Not a major expense, but what did they get from it? So she stood straight and she said, "We're not ordering Christmas cards this year." She could almost hear Luther applauding. Obby said, "May I ask why not?" "You certainly may not." To which Obby had no response. He stuttered something and hung up, and for a moment, Nora was filled with pride. She wavered as though she thought of the questions that would be raised. Her sister, her minister's wife, friends on the literacy board, her aunt in the retirement village, all would ask at some point what had happened to their Christmas cards. Lost in the mail? Ran out of time? No, she would tell the truth. No Christmas for us this year. Blair's gone. We're taking a cruise. And if you miss the cards that much, I'll send you 2 next year.
That's another element in our negotiations. What do we do about the traditions attached to the holidays? There are easy things to throw money at. Charitable giving is a good thing no matter when it's done. In some holiday practices, though, I just have to say, you're on your own. Gifts, for example. I tried quoting Ralph Waldo Emerson to my wife from his essay, Gifts. "Rings and other jewels are not gifts," he wrote, "but apologies for gifts. The only gift is a portion of thyself." She was having none of that. But what might be done about a symbol central to the season? Here's another excerpt from Skipping Christmas.
The gravity of their scheme hit hard the next day. It was entirely possible to enjoy Christmas without cards, without parties, without dinners, without needless gifts, without a lot of things. But for some reason, this had all been piled onto the birth of Christ. But how could anyone get through the season without a tree? Skip the tree, and Luther knew that they just might pull this off. They were clearing the table when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," he said. Through the front window of the living room, he saw the trailer out in the street, and he knew instantly that the next 15 minutes would not be pleasant. He opened the door, and he was met with 3 smiling faces, 2 youngsters dressed smartly in full Boy Scout regalia, and behind them, Mr. Scanlon, the neighborhood's permanent scoutmaster. He too was in uniform. "Good evening," Luther said to the kids. "Hello, Mr. Crank. I'm Randy Brogan," said the taller of the two. "We're selling Christmas trees again this year." "Got yours out on the trailer," said the shorter one. "How much?" Luther asked. $90, answered Randy. "We had to go up a little because our supplier went up too." With a big fake smile, Luther said, "Sorry, we're not buying one this year." Blank faces, puzzled faces, sad faces. Luther Crank knew that this was the pivotal moment. Snap here, the floodgates would open. Buy a tree, then decorate it, then realize that no tree looks complete without a pile of presents stuffed under it. The boys stared up at Mr. Crank as if he had just taken the last coins from their pockets. Luther said with another bogus grin, "We're not doing Christmas this year. Gonna be out of town. No need for a tree. Thanks anyway." The boys began looking at their feet, as wounded children will do, and Mr. Scanlon appeared to be heartbroken. Luther had a brilliant thought. "Hey, do you boys go out west each year for a big camporee of some sort?" "New Mexico, in August," I seem to recall in the flyer. They were caught off guard, but all three nodded slowly. "Good, here's the deal. I'll pass on the tree, but hey, you guys come back in the summer, and I'll give you $100 for your trip." Randy Bogan managed to say thanks, but only because he felt obligated. They suddenly wanted to leave.
No tree. What cranks these people must be. Sure, it's just for a year, and they still believe in the Jesus story. They're just taking a break. They're stepping aside from Christmas, not examining what the holiday means to them. We Unitarian Universalists are examiners. We expect each congregant to have their own theology, differing in at least subtle ways from other Unitarian Universalists' beliefs. We study. What we shouldn't forget to do is to listen as well, and to reclaim the joy of hearing and telling stories. Stories are at the core of religion, and there's a centrality of stories to human living dating from cave paintings and certainly before then. This season is one that is especially strong on story. The stories we hear in our bleak midwinter aren't of emptiness or want, but of fullness and celebration. I think more than the other holidays in the year, the holidays in this season are the ones for story. This is when we hear that it's possible to make it through a hard winter with the help of others who might have been enemies. Thanksgiving. When we're told that endurance is a virtue. Hanukkah. When the birth of a child shows that one individual can change the world for the better. Christmas. There are stories of struggle and solidarity in Kwanzaa, stories of rebirth and resetting with better intentions with Father Time and Baby New Year, stories of journeys in the Hajj, and of course stories of what comes to good little kids from Santa Claus. How might you tell about Unitarian Universalism in a holiday wrapping? Remember that this is a season of stories, and tell them yourself. Skip Christmas if you want, or ease up on the shopping, but in doing so, make your stories matter. I'll bet you can rival John Grisham, sometimes even when he's at his page-turning best. In our Unitarian Universalist narrative, do the stories become central to us, or do we find comfort on the fringe? For all of this, I think we should turn to story again and again. Sometimes the stories are religion as entertainment. Other times it's explanation. And we can detect some of the stories that have made their way into or out of our Unitarian Universalist anthology. During holidays, we have some difficult patches. succumbing to the Spirit, some might say, for those of us whose Christian heritage might be a bit more pronounced at Christmas time, or some of us being a bit too bah humbug in the face of others' glee when we decide that we know we're right and science, if not history, is on our side. Recognize that and have the perspective not just to live and let live, but to live and live with. To be alongside the relatives and friends and new acquaintances and fellow congregants who might celebrate a little differently. But in all of this, they're telling their stories and opening themselves and this world to humanity. Honor their spiritual journeys and where their faith seats them. Listen to their stories about why their holidays are important, and consider why this time might be important to you. Enjoy your holiday stories and look for the stories that inspire the holy in your life. As some humanist promotions have urged, be good for goodness sake. Being Unitarian Universalist in the holidays doesn't have to mean we're on the outside looking in, or that we're violating self-formed principles because we like to see trees with trimming, and we enjoy giving and receiving presents, and we like a good feast, and we're comforted by stories that have more tradition than fact. Being Unitarian Universalist in the holidays is a time to be attentive to what being Unitarian Universalist is year-round. Being open to searching and questioning, finding the threads that weave your stories, and sharing the road on this lifelong journey. May your holidays be happy and your lives continue to be full of the wonder from which holiday stories spring. Keep the sense of adventure during Advent, in this holiday season, and forever. Season's greetings, so be it.
Now is the time of the service where we have our offering. We will not be passing the plate because of germs, But even though the germy money needs to come into our community, we are hoping that you will drop your offering as you exit the church, or maybe when you came in. There's a welcome table in the lobby. And a lot of you have pledged. We thank you for that. A lot of you do your weekly offering electronically. We thank you for that. But we still take real money too. Checks, paper money, coins, whatever you feel. The church actually needs it a little bit more than ever over these last 21 months that we haven't been meeting. We appreciate you so much, and thanks for your offerings.
Coming soon, Spiritual Adventures Forum next Sunday is at 9:45 a.m. on Zoom. That gives you the opportunity, if you live close by, to watch at home, then have enough time to drive to church for the service. Or if you have farther to drive, you're welcome to come here early and find a comfortable seat somewhere in a classroom or in fellowship hall, and you can tune in from there as well. And then next week's service at 11 a.m. is in person in the sanctuary and on our Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel. And that one will be on the topic of our invented holidays.
We encourage each of you to stay for our coffee/social hour after church. And if you're watching from home, please join us in spirit. We're glad that you came too. Coffee will be in Fellowship Hall, just down the hall on your left. We're asking people please not to crowd around the serving window. We know that you like to see each other, but once you have gotten your coffee, go ahead and move on away from the window, if you will, and socialize a few feet away. If you're uncomfortable with maskless socializing that coffee drinking and eating might bring, then we invite you to stay into the sanctuary with your mask on and visit with your friends and neighbors here. I do have a few closing words called "'Tis the Season" by Maureen Killeran. "'Tis the season of advertisers run amok, and ambitions amplified beyond belief, of Martha Stewart memories mixed with desert island dreams, when even the most dedicated holiday hopper admits perfection isn't possible, and good enough is how the season ought to be. 'Tis the season of post-inebriated Santas blocking with consumer guilt the way to one too many holiday-mad stores, when glad tidings of busyness keep us from the news that nostalgia ain't what it was, when we deal with the gap between what we should be doing and what is possible in the reality of today, the season when all the dreams that you've ever dreamed of being but aren't return, reminding you of what you once could be. For all this and more, I say to you and to me, this is the season for generosity of spirit, for giving of the heart without counting cost, and forgiving those who are not here or not here as we would need them, for gentleness with self and others, for hope that love in presence or in memory will pay a healing call. A season for conviction that the way that you greet each day the way that you greet each day spring is what matters after all. Blessings, and may this holiday season bring for you and yours joy and peace.
Today, as we extinguish the chalice, we send its flame into the community as one of the lights before Christmas, hoping we see to greet the season with good Unitarian Universalist inclusion.